For a very long time in American politics, there was a truism about running for president of the United States. That truism suggested you were supposed to run to the extremes during the primaries, and then you were supposed to run toward the center in the general, which made perfect sense. You wanted to consolidate a base in the primaries so as to overcome your primary rivals. And then once you had done that, you were supposed to run toward the center because that's where the independents were. And the truth is that in every American election, the winner of that election has been the person who won independence, with the sole exception of 2012, when Mitt Romney beat Barack Obama with independence. But it didn't matter because Barack Obama had enough of his base show up that he was able to win a victory. In every other election, independents have decided the election. Joe Biden is deciding that it is time for him to buck conventional wisdom. He is not running to the center. Instead, he's believing all of the political idiots around him that he has to run to the far left. He's believing the Bernie Sanders crowd. He's believing the Pod Save America crowd. He's believing the most extreme members of his own base. And there is very little data to support the notion that he is going to win if he runs to the extreme part of his base. This is why he is losing right now. In fact, according to the latest NPR Marist poll, that actually has Joe Biden up 2 nationally, that same poll shows that in October of 2020, Joe Biden was winning among independent voters by 21 points, 57 to 36. In March of 2024, Donald Trump is beating Joe Biden with independent voters by 7 points, 52 to 45. That is a net 28-point swing toward Donald Trump among independent voters. And there is a reason for that. It is because Joe Biden has decided that he is not going to instead swivel to the center. He is going to run directly to his left. And he has cheerleaders on his left who are promoting this narrative, even though the narrative isn't particularly true. The real reason that Joe Biden is losing right now has nothing to do with his positions that are somewhat Democratic center-left on, for example, Israel-Gaza. The reason that he is losing right now is because most Americans perceive the economy to be poor. Most Americans perceive the president to be too old. They perceive Joe Biden to be disconnected. They believe that Joe Biden doesn't have their concerns at heart. For example, MSNBC yesterday reporting that 63% of swing state voters say the United States economy is not so good or poor. Only 36% say that it is excellent or good. Here's MSNBC discussing.
The poll also finds negative perceptions about the economy do remain a problem for the incumbent. 63% of swing state voters say the U.S. economy is in not so good or poor condition, while just 36% say it's in excellent or good condition.
Okay, well, that would be the reason that you're losing. I mean, if you are the incumbent president and 63% of swing state voters say that the economy is not so good or poor, that's the reason why you're underperforming in the polls. April 7th marks 6 months since Hamas brutally attacked Israel, launching a vicious war for Israel's very survival. We're living in times that many of us thought we would never see. As Israel fights for its existence, so many people around the world have turned their back on Israel right when they need them the most. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is on the ground right now delivering critically necessary emergency supplies to people who are suffering. There's an immediate need for essentials like food, medicine, and emergency supplies for hundreds of thousands of suffering Jews. Many cannot return to their homes because of rocket fire in the north from the terrorist group Hezbollah. Israel is in desperate need. That's why I've partnered with the fellowship today. Every donation is urgently necessary. It's a matter of life and death for men, women, and kids who are displaced because their homes were destroyed or in threat right now. Many families are still torn apart and have loved ones being held hostage. The fight is not over. The Israeli people are still suffering. Your gift today to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews will show them they are not forgotten. To give to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, visit benforthefellowship.org. Again, that's benforthefellowship.org. God bless and thank you. benforthefellowship.org. If you are Joe Biden and you have a closed loop echo chamber of people surrounding you, former Obama staffers, for example, who are very much to the left and who believe in the magic, mythic notion that Barack Obama's 2012 campaign can be replicated, that you can get out enough members of the base to overcome deficits with independents, which historically has not been true. Barack Obama is the only outlier, and that was a real outlier election. If you listen to all those people, you're going to swivel to your left, and you're going to skew the data to do it. So, for example, yesterday, CNN's data guru, Harry Enton, he suggested that the Israel-Hamas war is costing Joe Biden votes. The way that he does this is sort of fascinating. So he looks at Democrats who approve of Joe Biden's handling of various issues, including the economy, Russia-Ukraine, foreign policy, gun violence, the U.S.-Mexico border, and the Israel-Hamas war. This is a Quinnipiac University poll. Here is Harry Enton trying to explain.
Look here, the Israel-Hamas war. Look at that approval rating. Less than 50% of Democrats are approving on Joe Biden, on the Israel-Hamas war. And more than that, John, these numbers have gotten significantly worse. So this is Democrats' views of Biden on the Israel-Hamas war. Look back in October of 2023. It was 67%. Look where we are today, 48%. That disapprove number, look at that, jumped up from 28% in October of 2023 to 46% now. This is within the margin of error. Democrats are split on Joe Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war. John, you know I look at poll numbers a lot. For a president to be doing this poorly amongst his own party on any issue is quite something to see.
Okay, but there's one problem with this narrative. It's the top of that poll. Only 81% of Democrats approve of Joe Biden on the economy. His best issues are 80% issues among Democrats. That's the reason he is losing. It is not because of the third tier issue that is Israel-Hamas. That is not the issue for Joe Biden. Harry Ensign went on to explain. He said, this is Democrats who are extremely motivated to turn out and vote in November if they like Biden on the Israel-Hamas war. 63% of those Democrats say they're extremely motivated to turn out and vote in November. That's equal to the percentage of Republicans overall who say they're extremely motivated to turn out in November. But if they dislike Joe Biden on the Israel-Hamas war, only 53% of Democrats are extremely motivated to vote in 2024. In other words, if you like Joe Biden's performance on Israel-Hamas, you are more likely to vote for him if you're a Democrat, like go out and vote for him. If you don't like it, you're less likely to go out and vote. Harry Ensign then suggests that Joe Biden, if he switched his Israel-Hamas policy, would win those 53% of voters back up to 63 or 73%. There's one problem with this logic. It is backwards. The reason that 53% of voters who don't like Joe Biden's policy on Israel-Hamas, only 53% of those voters who are Democrats are voting, the reason is because wild left progressives are lower propensity voters than moderate left Democrats. You're talking about a young base of largely people of color who have lower voter turnout records. So he's looking at it backwards. What he should be looking at it is low propensity voters think that Joe Biden is too far to the right on Israel. High propensity Democratic voters think that Joe Biden is kind of right on Israel-Hamas. But again, the narrative must be pushed forward. And so you have all of Obama's old buddies out there doing this. John Favreau on Pod Save America is suggesting that Joe Biden should cut off aid to Israel. And this is, of course, increasingly the call. He tweeted out, the president doesn't get credit for being privately enraged when he still refuses to use leverage to stop the IDF from killing and starving innocent people. These stories only make him look weak. That was in response to a story saying angry Biden not changing Israel policy after deadly strike on aid workers. So again, the idea that the IDF is purposefully killing and starving innocent people is a lie, but it is a lie that is being promoted by the far left. And Joe Biden, because he is afraid, is listening to all of this. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.